Welcome to Mishna study Masechet Maaser Sheni Perek Gimal Mishna Zayin. Over here in this Mishnah, we have an interesting case of trees that are hanging over the walls of Jerusalem, right? So actually, if you see in this picture off to the back, so imagine this tree was just a little bit taller, hanging over the walls, right? You could either have the trunk of the tree outside of Jerusalem, and the branches are hanging over the wall inside, into Jerusalem, right? Or you could have vice versa. You could have the trunk of the tree inside the gates, inside the walls, and the branches are hanging outside. So what's what are the laws when it comes to redeeming fruits? Right? We know you're only allowed to redeem fruits outside of Jerusalem. Once you enter Jerusalem, you're not allowed to, right? And also, what about eating fruits? Right? You're only allowed to eat fruits of Maaser Sheni in Jerusalem. So Harambam is going to be unique in his Perush over here. Other Mefashim explain differently. You could look at their Perushim, Bartinura. I'm going to explain according to Harambam, and this is how he explained. If you remember, we had a similar Mishnah in Masechet Maaserot as well. So Ilan shu omed bifnim v'note lachutz. Right? So you have a tree. It's standing inside, right? The trunk is inside the walls, and the branches are hanging outside. Or omed bachutz v'note lifnim, or it's the trunk of the tree is outside, and the branches are hanging inside. So everything goes according to the wall. All I care about is the wall. If the fruits are outside of the wall, then it's going to be if they're within the wall, they're considered within the wall of the city. If they're outside of the wall, they're considered outside of the city. And what? So Rambam says over here, all this is for eating of the fruits. That's the only law that the Mishnah is teaching us over here. When it comes to eating fruits, if it was within the city walls, I don't care about the tree. Right? I don't care if you're underneath the branches that are hanging from inside Jerusalem, and it's hanging over into the wall. It doesn't matter. You're inside Jerusalem, that's it. That's considered inside, and you can eat the Maaser Sheni fruits. Or if you're outside of the wall, I don't care if you're underneath branches of a tree whose trunk is within the wall of the city. It doesn't matter. It's considered outside. Right? All this is in regards to. It was all in regards to eating of the fruits. Now, similarly, it's also asur to redeem Maaser Sheni, right? Once he reaches under the branches. Now, over here, it doesn't matter, if you're under the branches, even if the tree, right? Even if the trunk of the tree is within the wall of the city, you're under the branches outside of the wall. Even so, at this point, you're no longer allowed to redeem Maaser Sheni. This is not what the Mishnah is talking about. This is an extra chumrah, right? And that's the way Harambam explains this. Bartinura explains this differently. And this fits with what we said in Masechet Maaserot, right? And within Jerusalem, everything goes according to the nof, according to, if you're under the branches, we explained it over there that, it goes even according to the nof. And this is really catching, you're really being, holding both chubrot. Right? You're only allowed to, eat it if you're within the walls, but you're not allowed to redeem it once you reach, underneath the branches of a tree that's within the walls. Right? So that's how we learn this Mishnah. But Te'abadim, right? Now we're moving on to a very similar case. That's the olive press. The olive press, a lot of times the olive press, what they would do is they would have, within the walls of the city, right? There would be this, I guess, a protrusion coming outside of the city. So, you're coming outside of the city. You have this, this house, a room, right, where the airspace, right, is already outside, of the city, but it's, the opening to this room is within the city gates. So, how do we view this room? So if you have the doorways are inside, but the room itself is outside of the walls of the city, right? Or if you have their entrances on the outside and their chamber, right? The actual room itself is within the walls. Bet Shammai says everything is like the inside. And again, the chumrah, right? But Shema is usually the chumrah, as explained in the Tosefta, meaning what? That you're not allowed to redeem Maaser Sheni, and you're not allowed to eat them. That's it. Everything's like inside, right? You're no longer allowed to redeem Maaser Sheni. Similarly, you're also not allowed to eat it, right? Even though we're saying it's kilifnim, it doesn't matter. You're still not allowed to eat Maaser Sheni over there because Bet Shammai is the Chumrah. Bet Hillel omrim, mekeneged hachumrah b'lifnim kilifnim, mekeneged hachumrah l'achos l'achos. Everything goes according to the wall itself. If you're out within the wall, right, then you're allowed to redeem Maaser. Then you're if you're within the wall, you're allowed to eat Maaser over there, right? You're allowed to eat kodashim there as well. But again, you're not allowed to redeem Maaser Sheni. Right? So for all intents and purposes, you're allowed to eat over there, you're not allowed to redeem over there. And when outside the wall, right? Over there, you're allowed to redeem Maaser Sheni, and you're not allowed to eat it there. So it's interesting over here, if we're talking about both cases, right? You're not allowed to, you're outside the wall, you're not allowed to eat, and you are allowed to redeem. Right? And why do choose a case of Batei Abadim? Why do choose a case of the olive presses? Because a lot of times these olive presses, that's the way they would be set up. Right? It was very normal to find an olive press that's, literally the entrance to olive presses within the walls of the city, but the actual room itself, right, is almost, coming. If I was to see, right, if I was to actually, if you connect it to the actual, room itself, you'll see that, actually Harambam has an interesting picture here, which I can't really show, but he does, show that this is the case, how the olive presses themselves are, the entrance is from within the city, but the room itself is sitting without.